Seabrook's most enduring legend is that of Captain Blackheart, a pirate whose treasure was said to be buried along our rugged coast. They say he hid his fortune, gold, jewels, and artifacts, before being captured in a final battle, taking the secret to his grave. For generations, locals whispered of cursed riches and ghostly laughter on stormy nights, warning treasure hunters to stay away. But for me, the legend was a promise of adventure, a mystery waiting to be solved in my own backyard. I'm Leo, and after my grandfather, the town historian, passed away, I inherited his old house by the sea. One rainy afternoon I finally braved the attic, a maze of boxes and memories. While moving a chest, I found a loose floorboard and beneath it a small wooden box. Inside was a fragile hand-drawn map of Seabrook's coastline, marked with cryptic symbols and a bold X near the cliffs. My heart pounded. This wasn't a tourist trinket, it matched the legends my grandfather told. I realized this was Captain Blackheart's map. The attic, once dusty and forgotten, now felt like the start of an incredible adventure. My ordinary life was about to change forever. The map's first riddle led me to the ancient forest at the edge of town, beneath the Old Man of the Woods, a massive oak. With the map in my backpack, I set off at dawn, the woods eerily quiet except for the wind and distant gulls. Searching the tree's base, I found a hidden compass rose carved into the bark, its arrow pointing toward the sea cliffs. My excitement surged, I was solving the puzzle. But then, a branch snapped nearby. I froze, certain I was being watched. Grabbing my backpack, I hurried toward the cliffs, the adventure now a race. Someone else was after the treasure. The compass rose, with its intricate markings and unwavering needle, led me onward, deeper into the mysteries that lay hidden along this treacherous coast. It guided me to the entrance of the Echoing Caves, a place whispered about in hushed tones by the locals. This labyrinth of caverns was feared by the fishermen, seasoned sailors who knew these waters like the back of their hands. They avoided it at all costs, for its unpredictable tides and oppressive darkness had claimed many a vessel and soul. The entrance itself seemed to breathe with a dark energy. Undeterred, I pressed on, driven by the promise of the next clue. "Follow the voice of the stone," the riddle instructed, its words echoing in my mind as I stepped into the cavern's mouth, "until you see the pirate's eye." A cryptic verse, promising both reward and peril. Inside, the only sound was the constant drip, drip, drip of water, each drop an echo in the vast emptiness. This rhythmic pulse became my guide, leading me through a network of twisting tunnels, each turn darker and more claustrophobic than the last. Finally, the tunnels opened into a large chamber where, embedded in the wall, a green gem, like a glowing eye, stared back at me. It pulsed with an eerie light, beckoning me closer. It was perfectly set in the rock, as if waiting for someone to find it. As I carefully pried it loose from its ancient setting, I heard footsteps echoing behind me, growing louder with each passing second. My pursuer was close, far too close. The race was on, I had to act fast. On the gem's back, barely visible in the dim light, was a symbol. A lighthouse, intricately carved into the stone. Clutching the gem tightly in my hand, I desperately searched for an escape, and finally found a narrow exit, a sliver of light in the overwhelming darkness. Scrambling through, I emerged onto the jagged rocks of the coastline, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The clues were real, tangible pieces of a larger puzzle, and the danger I faced was just as real, a constant shadow lurking at my heels. I couldn't afford to linger, I had to keep moving, stay one step ahead. The next stop, beckoned by the symbol on the gem, the old lighthouse. A beacon of hope or a trap waiting to be sprung, only time would tell. The abandoned Seabrook lighthouse loomed through the fog, its windows shattered, door hanging by a hinge. Inside, every step up the spiral staircase echoed, the sense of being followed growing stronger. Halfway up, I glimpsed a shadowy figure below, my pursuer, waiting at the base. Panic rising, I climbed to the lamp room, searching for the final clue, the map's riddle. Where light once shone, look to the west. On the lantern's western side, coordinates were scratched into the metal. I had the final piece of the puzzle, but I was trapped at the top, with danger below. With the coordinates finally deciphered and in hand, after all the trials and tribulations, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment I'd been working towards. The final riddle had led me here, to this precise location marked on my map. As I approached the cliff's edge, I spotted an old rope, thick with age and sea salt, dangling precariously from the side of the lighthouse. It looked like it had been there for decades, silently weathering countless storms. I cautiously tested its strength, then tied it securely to the base of the lighthouse lantern, hoping it would hold my weight. The lantern itself was a relic, a vintage piece of maritime history. Taking a deep breath, I began to rappel down the lighthouse wall, the rough stones scraping against my gloves. The wind howled around me and the waves crashed below, a constant reminder of the power of the sea. As I descended further, I was enveloped into thick fog, a swirling blanket of white that obscured everything around me. Visibility adding another layer of danger to the already perilous situation. Finally reaching the bottom, I raced to the hidden cove, my heart pounding in my chest. The air was thick with the smell of salt and seaweed, and the sound of the waves grew louder with each step. I could see the tide surging in, relentlessly claiming more and more of the beach. Time was running out. The ocean's rhythm was quickening, and I knew I had to be faster. I spotted the cave entrance, the entrance already half submerged, a dark and ominous maw in the rocky coastline. The water lapped at its edges, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked within. I waded into the cold water, and inside, barely visible in the dim light, a faded red X marked a flat rock. It was the sign I had been searching for, the final confirmation that I was in the right place. The rock was smooth and worn, the red paint almost completely gone, but the X was still there, a silent testament to the legend of Captain Blackheart. It was a treasure-mark stone on the sand. Driven by a mix of excitement and desperation, I started digging frantically, the wet sand clinging to my hands. Every second counted, as the tide continued to rise. My shovel struck something hard, and with a final heave, I unearthed a heavy iron-bound chest, its metal bands rusted and corroded by the sea. It was heavier than I imagined. The water was now up to my waist, the tide flooding the cave with alarming speed. I knew I had to get out of there, and fast. Despite the danger, a thrill shot through me. I'd found Captain Blackheart's treasure, the culmination of my quest. But as I turned to leave, I saw a figure silhouetted against the cove's entrance, blocking my escape. The cave opening was now almost entirely submerged. My pursuer appeared, their identity still shrouded in mystery, their presence a looming threat. They were watching silently, their intentions unclear, their shadow stretching long and menacing in the fading light. The tide rose relentlessly, cutting off any chance of escape. The waves crashed against the rocks, a deafening roar that echoed through the cove. I was trapped, caught between the rising tide and a shadowy figure. The walls of the cave seemed to close in around me, amplifying the sense of claustrophobia. The chest was too heavy to move alone, an anchor that threatened to drag me down with it. I struggled to lift it, but my strength was waning. The legend was real, the treasure was within my grasp, a tangible piece of history. But so was the danger, the threat of the rising tide and the unknown figure looming in the entrance. The situation was becoming increasingly perilous. I braced myself, preparing for a confrontation, ready to defend what I had found. My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to back down. The air crackled with tension, a suspenseful moment hanging heavy in the air as I waited for what would come next. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of the waves. The true test, the ultimate challenge, was not just finding the treasure, but surviving what came after. The moment of truth was upon me, the beginning of a confrontation that would determine my fate. The rising tide and the mysterious figure were closing in, and I knew I had to act fast. The man stepped into the cove, the entrance swallowed by shadow. The air hung heavy with the scent of salt and something else, something ancient and undisturbed. Each footfall echoed in the damp silence, a stark contrast to the crashing waves just beyond the cave's mouth. He ventured deeper, drawn by an unseen force, a whisper of secrets carried on the ocean breeze. It was Mr. Abernathy, the museum owner, a man whose eyes held the wisdom of countless years spent among relics and artifacts. His presence here, in this hidden place, was unexpected yet somehow fitting. He always seemed to know more than he let on, a silent guardian of Seabrook's history. And my grandfather's old friend, a bond forged in shared adventures and whispered tales, a connection that transcended time and circumstance. Their friendship was a tapestry woven with secrets, a silent understanding that passed between them with a mere glance. He smiled gently, a warm, reassuring expression that eased the tension in the air. It was a smile that spoke of shared history, of secrets kept and promises honored, a smile that hinted at the extraordinary journey that lay ahead. "I was sent to keep you safe," he said, his voice a low, comforting rumble. "Your grandfather entrusted me with this task, knowing the path you were destined to walk would be fraught with peril. His words were a shield, a promise of protection against the unknown dangers that lurked in the shadows. Your grandfather wanted you to find this, a legacy carefully concealed, a puzzle designed to test your courage and your wit. He knew the answers you sought were hidden within, waiting to be discovered, but not alone. He extended a hand, a silent offer of companionship and guidance. The journey is always easier, and the rewards far greater, when shared with another. He explained, unraveling the threads of a story that had been hidden for generations. My grandfather had planted the clues, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to a truth far more valuable than any treasure. Each riddle, each hidden symbol was a piece of the puzzle, a step closer to understanding our family's legacy. Hoping I'd experience the adventure for myself, to feel the thrill of discovery, the weight of history, and the power of knowledge. He wanted me to understand the true meaning of the treasure, not just its monetary value. Together we pried open the chest, its hinges groaning in protest after years of silence. The wood was worn and weathered, bearing the marks of time and the secrets it held within. Not gold but journals, filled with handwritten notes and sketches, the chronicles of a life dedicated to exploration and discovery. Star charts meticulously drawn and annotated, mapping constellations and celestial bodies with an accuracy that defied their time. And navigational tools, instruments of precision and ingenuity. Tools that had guided explorers across vast oceans and uncharted territories. On top, a letter from Captain Blackheart, its ink faded but its message still clear. A testament to a life lived on the edge of discovery, revealed the truth, a revelation that shattered the myths and legends surrounding the infamous pirate. His real treasure was knowledge, not riches, the pursuit of understanding the world and its mysteries. He was an explorer, not a villain, a pioneer who dared to venture beyond the known boundaries of his time. And his discoveries were centuries ahead of their time, innovations and insights that had been lost to history, waiting to be rediscovered. My grandfather wanted me to protect, to safeguard this legacy of knowledge and innovation from those who would exploit it for their own gain. And share this lost history, to bring Captain Blackheart's true story to light and inspire others to seek knowledge and understanding. The adventure wasn't about wealth, about amassing gold and riches, a superficial pursuit that paled in comparison to the true treasure, but about truth and legacy, about uncovering the secrets of the past and preserving them for future generations. Standing in the rising tide, the waves lapping at my feet, I felt a profound connection to the past, a sense of belonging to something larger than myself. I realized I'd found something far greater than gold, a treasure that could not be measured in monetary value, but in the richness of knowledge and the power of truth. I'd uncovered Seabrook's true secret, a hidden history that had been waiting to be revealed. A story that would change everything we thought we knew, and my own. A newfound understanding of my family's legacy and my place in the grand tapestry of history.